My name is Maria, and this handsome guy here is Apollo, aka Bubs, and welcome to another video.
I like it, I go la 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 la. I like it, I just wah 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 wah. Oh baby, say it and make it.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have Apollo helping me here today because for today's video I'm going to be talking about some of the books that I really loved growing up. There weren't too many of them because, as I have mentioned before, I was not a consistent reader growing up, but there were definitely a few books that really made a difference in my life.
I think it's made me a better person.
So there were definitely books that I really enjoyed, and some of them are a bit questionable nowadays and might have some problematic things about them, but growing up I absolutely loved them, and a lot of them I still love. So when I talk about childhood or books that I enjoyed growing up, I'm talking about grades 1 through 12. I'm not talking about anything after grade 12, like college or studying abroad or anything like that. I am just going to be talking about the books that I really loved growing up from grades 1 through 12. And also these books are in no particular order. I think that the first two books are in order and everything after that is not. So let's get into it.
Let's go!
As I talk about these books, I'm gonna pop them up right here just because I do not have the actual paper book for any of these, because as I have mentioned in my previous video, I'm trying to declutter and I'm getting rid of my books. I am not buying new ones, and so these books have been gone for a while. So let's begin with my very favorite, very just beloved book of all time that I've ever read, and it is Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. I have said before that I am not a romance reader. I do not read romance anymore.
This is going to be about something that's probably going to make me throw up in my mouth a little bit.
I think the last romance book I read was over 5 years ago, if maybe more. And this book, back in the day, I just remember it sweeping me off my feet. I absolutely love this book. Couldn't stop reading it. So Gone with the Wind is a story about a girl whose name is Scarlett O'Hara, who grew up on a plantation during Civil War times, and it's about just her life from when she is really young, carefree girl to when she's a grown woman and even older than that. It is a really beautiful, epic saga that I absolutely loved, and I still love. There are definitely some problematic things in that book, which I feel like there's problematic things in most books.
For realskies?
But I loved it back then, and I still love this book with all my heart, and it definitely holds a very special place in my heart. Growing up, I was a really big hopeless romantic. I still am, but I've already met my husband, and I don't need that in books anymore. So back then I was a really big hopeless romantic, and I remember just getting swept off my feet by the romance of Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler, and it was just something out of this world. I remember sitting in my room reading it just nonstop. I could not stop. I think I read it more than once. So I know that the character of Scarlett O'Hara might be problematic just because she is not very likable.
She's rude. She's bad.
I don't like her.
And she kind of uses people, and she's just not the best person. But for me personally, why I loved the book so much and I loved her as a character was because she was literally everything that I felt like I was not. So she was strong where I did not feel like I was strong at all. And she could hold her emotions back, whereas I had an issue with that my whole life, with how sensitive and how emotional I got really easily. And also, she was just this unrelenting force that I aspired to be like. Even though she made some stupid decisions, like in the end, for example, which I remember crying. That was probably one of the most upsetting endings to a book I have ever read. But even with that, I just really looked up to her. So my second book that I absolutely loved growing up, that is probably my second favorite after Gone with the Wind, is The Thornbirds by Colleen McCullough. The Thornbirds is about a priest and his love for this girl, her name is Maggie, and how his whole life he has to choose between his responsibilities to the church and his ambitions in that area, and then his love for her. It is another epic romance, and as you guys already heard, I was a big hopeless romantic back then.
I love it.
I definitely remember reading those books and just imagining, getting swept off my feet by some man. And it really just intensified my emotions. I remember crying. I remember smiling. That book gave me all the feels. And there was also a mini series that was made also back then, and that one's also great and amazing, and it really brought the book to life, and all the actors are great, the casting. So if you guys are not going to read the book, I definitely recommend the mini-series because it definitely withstands the test of time.
It's a classic.
This is where the books start to not be in order. These could be in any order, really. They're just books that I really enjoyed, and they might be some books that you've probably heard of before. The third book that I really enjoyed growing up is the Harry Potter series. Now, everybody knows the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. We all know that it's about a little boy whose whole family gets killed by Voldemort, and he's the only one survives. And it's kind of about his life growing up with this magical ability, going to Hogwarts, and trying to defeat this bad wizard. I mean, these books, they're just classic. I love them. I think J.K. Rowling really wrote a great world building, great characters. They definitely stand out in my mind.
How could I forget?
Everybody has probably heard of Harry Potter, Hermione, Ron, just because they are like classic at this point. And the books were amazing. I remember I was in, I think, high school when I was reading them, and I vividly remember standing in line at Barnes & Noble to buy the next book because I was hooked and because I just had to know what was going to happen. And these books, they're just great. So the number 4 book that I really enjoyed growing up was the Twilight series by Stephenie Meyer. Now, this might be a controversial pick because I know that a lot of people think that it's kind of cheesy and the book kind of goes in a really weird direction, but honestly, I loved it.
Girl, facts.
I don't care. I loved it. It holds a special place in my heart, just like all these other books, and I could not put them down. The Twilight series, it's about this plain girl who falls in love with a vampire, and it goes from there. It's epic, just like all of these books are. And I actually remember being in high school when the first movie came out, and I had no idea what Twilight was. So once the movie came out, I remember doing like research to figure out what the heck these Twilight movies are, and I tried so hard not to kind of fall into the craziness and, you know, the obsession that is Twilight.
You failure.
But I did. I remember I read the first book, and it was finals time in my high school, and I remember probably not studying enough because I was reading until like 3 or 4 in the morning. And then I remember going the next day after my finals to get the next book. I did not care. I had to know. And it was nice because at the time, all of the books were already out. So I just binged them. I binged all 3 books, one after the other, and I literally could not stop until I finished all of them. And I really loved the ending. The ending did not disappoint me. It really was just great, I thought. And I also really liked the movie. I cried at the movie theater as well when I watched those movies.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
I don't know, people say different things, but that is just my personal opinion. So the 5th book is Atonement by Ian McEwan. I love this book. I actually watched the movie first. You know, the movie starred Keira Knightley and James McAvoy, and it was amazing. I thought another movie where I cried so hard at the end. It just really took me by surprise. And so after I watched the movie, it became one of my favorites. I just knew that I had to read the book. And honestly, I thought that the book was just as good, if not better, than the movie was.
Sue me.
The movie kind of helped it come to life, but the book itself was just amazing. So the story is about this young little girl who sees something, and even though she's not quite sure exactly what she saw, she thinks that she knows what is happening and what she saw, and she kind of starts a chain of events that lead down some very upsetting roads and cause a lot of turmoil in a lot of people's lives. This book, again, there is a really big romance in this book, which I guess back then that was really important to me. But this book was definitely on the sadder side. It was difficult to read and to watch.
I feel like I'm gonna cry.
But I still really recommend it just because it is epic and you will not see the ending coming. At least I didn't. And I think it was just beautifully made and then beautifully adapted onto the screen. And the last books that I remember really enjoying as I was growing up was the Vampire Academy series. I remember so vividly being on this European trip with my family and stopping at bookstores and having to get all of the books in the Vampire Academy series because I think I picked the first one up on a whim. I had no idea what it was about. I just kind of picked it up and started reading it, and I fell in love, and then I couldn't stop. So I read all of those books really quickly, one after the other. And I loved all of them.
It's freaking incredible, right?
So, Vampire Academy is about this magical school where vampires and also mortals go to kind of learn their roles. I read these books so long ago, I really did not remember much else. I mean, I had to go back and read the synopsis just because I honestly didn't remember. I just remember having really loved it when I read it. And it's a young adult novel, so maybe if I read it today, I would probably not like it as much. But back then, I ate it up. I would definitely recommend for younger kids, maybe who really enjoy reading about vampires, because back in the day, I remember being kind of obsessed with vampires. But this book, as most of the other books in this list, somehow, in a weird coincidence,
I don't buy it.
this book was also adopted into a movie. And I thought the movie was not bad, but it was definitely not as good as the books were, at least in my opinion. Oh, look who's back, guys. He was really annoying me, so I had to put him away for a little bit because he was trying to bite my sleeve. Also, he's very needy, so he doesn't really like to stay far from me, or really any kind of distance between us he doesn't like. So those are my books that, at least from what I remember, I just really enjoyed growing up. And most of them have vivid world building or underlying romance, because that is definitely what I enjoyed back in the day. But I'm glad that I read these books because they definitely catapulted my love for reading later on in life.
That's inevitable.
Once I was out of school, I then was able to remember how much I enjoyed reading those books. And so then I continued with my love affair with books, right, buddy? And even though I liked different things back then, those books still really hold a really special place in my heart. So that's the end of my video about books that I really loved growing up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. There's going to be a lot more videos like this to come. Let me know if you guys have any ideas about what videos I should do in the future. And also let me know what books you loved growing up. What books really made a difference in your life as you were growing up. In your childhood, or maybe even in college. Let me know, because I would love to know what got you into reading.
Please, go on.
Yeah, so let me know in the comments, guys. I would really appreciate it. And if you found this video at all enjoyable, and if you like bookish content, and also some birdies too, because we love animals on this channel, please subscribe, give me a like, share. Anything would really mean the world to me, guys. Right, bubs? And with that, I hope you guys have a great day, whatever it is you guys are doing. Bye, guys. Say bye, bubs. Bye.
Check out my collection.